And today we're going to talk about the fun topic of using past tenses. Perfect. Now, let's see. Can we see that? Perfect, yes. Okay, so, as I said, we're going to talk about using past tenses today. And first I'm going to give you a bit of an overview of what kind of past tenses there are. There's 4 different main ones. And then we're going to look at them a little bit more in detail. So first the past simple, past progressive, and then past perfect. And with past perfect I'm also going to show you some things about past perfect progressive. And as the last point for today, we're going to talk about using the past tenses in the topic of traveling and tourism, because that's also what our exams, our trial exams next week are going to be about. So, the past tenses, a little overview. We have past tense simple, which is basically I walked, just the basic form of past tense. Then we have the past tense progressive, or also called past tense continuous, which is I was walking. So these two kind of go together. And then we have the past perfect, simple and continuous. So simple would be I had walked, and continuous would be I had been walking. So those are the 4 past tenses. There are, of course, other tenses, like some present tenses that have a past meaning, but we're not going to go into those today. So, the past simple in detail. We construct the past simple by taking the infinitive and adding an ed. So, like we saw here, I walked. Here. And I thought I would tell you in German for what we use the past or the different tenses, because then maybe you can have it in your head a bit easier. So it would be abgeschlossene Handlungen in der Vergangenheit, Gewohnheiten in der Vergangenheit und Tatsachen. And of course everything is always in the past. So activities in the past and so on and so forth. You have to pay attention to a few different things with past simple. For one, there's words like short words like stop, that in the past simple then have a double letter in the middle, kind of. So stop becomes stopped. As you can see, I've put it in red here. And there's a few more like that, which I'm sure you can look up in your grammar books or even online. And those things you kind of just have to learn by heart and remember. Same goes with cry, for example. So words with Y at the end. The Y then turns into an I. So cry turns into cried with I. As you can see here. So yeah, those are things that you, as I just said, just have to remember and look up. And then also there's a few kind of words that don't really go as we would think they go. For example, go turns into went and not goed or something like that. Sit into sat, do into did, and there's a whole list of those words that are different, and you also have to learn those by heart. And yeah, look them up in your grammar books or online, because that's really important that you remember those and that you can use them correctly. Now let's move on to the past past progressive or also past continuous, which we form with was or were, and the present participle, which is the infinitive plus ing. So, for example, I was walking. And we use it if we want to have, or if we have a Dauer im Fokus. So, wenn die Dauer einer Handlung im Fokus ist, natürlich in der Vergangenheit. Wenn es um einen bestimmten Zeitpunkt in der Vergangenheit geht, an dem man gerade etwas gemacht hat. Außerdem, wenn man gleichzeitige Handlungen beschreibt, die nebeneinander ablaufen in der Vergangenheit, und wenn man, das heißt hier lange, dieses interessante Wort, wenn eine lange Handlung durch eine kurze unterbrochen wird, dann wird die lange Handlung durch die Past Tense Progressive ausgedrückt. You also have to pay attention in the past progressive to words like run that turn into running, same as with the past simple. Remember stop, stopping, stop, stopped, run, running, run, ran is something different. And then also, for example, lie turns into lying with a Y. As I said previously, those things you just have to look up and learn by heart and remember. But that's actually not that bad. If you do lots of exercises on that, and if you surround yourself with those kind of words a lot, then you will remember them quite easily and they won't pose a lot of problems for you. Now let's move on to the past perfect. So the past perfect, there's simple and past perfect progressive. Past perfect simple is formed with had plus past participle, so the third form. For example, had walked, I had walked. And the usage of a past perfect simple would be vor einer anderen Handlung in der Vergangenheit oder bis zu einem bestimmten Zeitpunkt in der Vergangenheit und dann darüber hinaus. There's also a few words that you can maybe look at that usually come around the past perfect, or that usually tell you that you have to use the past perfect, like when, after, before. Yeah, and then there's also the past perfect progressive, which is quite similar to the past simple or the past progressive, which is formed with had been and the present participle. So, for example, had been walking. And that's if you have a begrenzte Zeitspanne in der Vergangenheit, die aber bereits abgeschlossen ist. So, for example, I don't know, this time last year, or actually, what's a good example for a past perfect progressive? When the clock turned to 1, we already had been walking for 3 hours, for example. So you kind of have a certain time that is past now, but it has a beginning and an end that you kind of tell your listener while you're speaking. Now, those are really the main past tenses that are classified as past tenses. As I already said, there's tenses like the present perfect and those kind of things that also have a past meaning. but we won't go into those today. We're going to talk about those another time. And of course, if you have questions about that sort of thing, then don't hesitate to ask them. Now let's just quickly look at using the past tenses, actually. So kind of looking at how the past tenses can really be used in a sentence or in a context. And for us it will be the context of traveling and tourism, because as I said, that's something that is quite likely to be a topic at your exam. And it's also the topic that we're going to talk about next week in our trial exams. So here I have for you a few different sentences that are about traveling and tourism, and that have some past tenses in them. So the first one is, tourism changed the way people think about traveling. So here you have the past simple, because that's just it's nothing kind of that doesn't focus on duration or anything. It's just a simple past, something that has gone already. And then the next sentence will be, when we arrived in Costa Rica, we had been traveling for 24 hours. That's a very good example for the past progressive with had been. So as you can see here, first we use the past simple to just imply, one specific point, and that was when we arrived. But before that, we had been traveling for 24 hours, so that's a long time. We focus on the duration of that here. That's why we use had been, and because it's a long action. The next sentence would be, before the trip, I had packed my suitcase very carefully. So if you're kind of that will be in the situation if you've arrived somewhere at your final destination and you're kind of unpacking your suitcase and you've forgotten something, but then you're thinking about, what did I do? And then later on, when you're back home, you tell the story of how you forgot something to a friend, and then you say, you were thinking about how you could have forgotten that, and then you say, oh, but before the trip I had actually packed my suitcase very carefully. That's the interesting thing. So that's I hope you kind of understood what I wanted to get across here, but that's the kind of situation that you would use the past perfect in. Then we have, when people got richer, they started to travel. Just a simple past. Again, that's actually the one that's usually used the most. There's not a lot to say there. There's no emphasis on a certain time or duration or anything like that. And the last sentence that I have for you today is, I was running to the gate when my flight got cancelled. So here we have a longer action that is interrupted by a shorter action. So for the longer action, use the past progressive, and for the shorter one, of course, the past simple. So the long one would be, I was running, and then suddenly, whoop, my flight got cancelled. So I didn't have to kind of run anymore, because I heard through the speakers that my flight actually got cancelled. And yeah, those are a few different sentences that you could possibly use in your exam, depending on what the exam is about, what you kind of want to talk about there. But yeah, so I think I gave you a quite quick and not too detailed overview about the past tenses, but if you have more questions or you kind of don't understand something, then don't hesitate to ask us, and we will of course always answer your questions either in the live chat or in the comments below the video when we've uploaded it. And yeah, also if you kind of want to do some exercises and you want us to look at them, then that's fine too. And I think that's all I have to say today. As I already said, next week we're going to do some trial exams. So if you're interested in that, then definitely tune in again. Otherwise, I hope you're having a nice evening and goodbye.